Hey guys, welcome to Full Frontal here. I was going to use in my next video to talk about the whole Vic Magnana situation, but I'm going to be honest with you. After this morning and after this afternoon reading the news, this is absolutely, positively, without fail, one of the more important cases we're going to see coming out in the political and social realm for the next probably foreseeable future. Short, maybe a couple of cases that are going to be decided by the court. Most importantly, Bladesburg Cross. We're going to see that case. We've got the gerrymandering cases, which, by the way, they do seem like they're going to go 5-4 against the people that are trying to win them. Bladesburg seems like it's going to go 5-4 against the humanist, which makes me extremely happy about it, right? Because basically it's going to be the court. If that's what's going to happen, and it seems like it is, the court's going to bitch slap a bunch of whiny humanists who think that they have the right to heckler's veto people and things they don't like. And that's just not how the fucking Constitution's written, unfortunately. Well, guys, apologize. I'm going to have to eat something I haven't eaten almost all day. So I had salad at like noon, 1 o'clock, and I'm fucking starving. You guys could watch me eat biscuits and marmalade. Sound like an old man now. I really just need a rocking chair to do these videos with a shotgun, so I can scream get off my lawn. Anyways, guys, so if you're not familiar with the two wonderful human beings in these pictures, and I'm going to use that very loosely with the one on top. They are Jack Phillips, Masterpiece Cakeshop, and Autumn Scaranda. I think that's how you say her last name. It's last name, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Him, her, it, whatever. I'm going to go with its preferred pronoun because it really hasn't done anything. She really hasn't done anything to piss me off too bad yet. So I'm going to use the preferred pronoun. He goes by she because that is a transgender man. Or transgender woman, I'm sorry. I always get those nomenclatures messed up. It's transgender woman. Okay. So Autumn Scaranda, or Scaranda, however the heck you say the last name. Back last year, when Jack Phillips' case was the day it was decided by the Supreme Court that there was impermissible hostility against Mr. Phillips' religious views. And by the way, guys, I really hyper encourage you to read that ruling. Kennedy says some things in there that will apply going forward, and I think it's going to make it very hard for the court going forward to justify some of the stuff that's going on now. And also, you're going to understand why in a minute why I think this is going to be a full frontal assault on anti-discrimination laws going forward, because I think that'll be the next line of attack for these people that are being assaulted. But anyways, the day the court decides that, this lovely transgender woman decides to file a discrimination complaint against Mr. Phillips for not making her gender transition cake. He has openly stated he will not make cakes for several different instances. He doesn't make Halloween cakes. He doesn't make divorce cakes. He doesn't make gay marriage cakes. He doesn't do things like gender transition cakes. If it goes against his religious foibles, he will not make a cake for it. He has turned down all. And by the way, so you know, this lovely transgender is a fucking attorney. Okay. This person is an attorney, so they know exactly how to abuse the law. They have asked him to make cakes of Satan worship. One of them was a black cake with cheesecake icing with a picture of the devil licking a functional dildo that could be turned on before they unveiled it, knowing full well he wasn't going to make that cake. The intent was not to get the cake made. It was to harass him into a discrimination complaint. That is exactly what this person is after. That's exactly what happened. So basically what happened with that complaint, they decided to try to uphold it. And then Jack Phillips sued him again because Jack Phillips is fed up with the state of Colorado, as he should be. I mean, he just spent 5 years of his life basically bitch slapping Colorado every step of the way, except in Colorado, surprisingly. The Colorado courts didn't see anything wrong with what they were doing. Somehow or another, every federal court bitch slapped Colorado, every one of them. He won on several levels, including the Supreme Court, for impermissible hostility and other reasons. Okay, so they uphold it. Well, during discovery, they find several instances of the state of Colorado continuing to discuss how he deserves to be put out of business because they don't like what he believes. And so this comes out in discovery. The state of Colorado immediately realizes they got their hand caught in the cookie jar and that they're going to get just slapped across the country. It's not going to be pretty. So they drop the complaint. Phillips drops the lawsuit. Pretty normal thing to happen. That's what most states would do when caught in that situation. That's the right thing to do from Jack Phillips' standpoint. In light of this new development, I'm not sure it was the right thing to do. And this is going to be why. So sometime in the last couple of months, this attorney up top, I will not use their name anymore because I cannot pronounce the last name, but and not to mention, I think they're a piece of human garbage. I think they deserve to be in prison for some of the shit they're pulling, and not because they're gay, because they're harassing an honest, hardworking person, and they're filing frivolous lawsuits with the intent, one, of putting the person out of business either through legal process or through bankruptcy. That's what they want to do. They're going to make it impossible for him to operate because he can't afford to keep filing lawsuits to defend himself and filing defense fees and all this other crap that he has to do and hoping to recover them at the end. It doesn't happen. Because if you think lawsuits are cheap, I really encourage you to go listen to Nick Rekieta talk about how much the lawsuit between Vic and those defendants is going to cost. Ty Beard has estimated that by the time they're done filing against everybody, it can be in the millions of dollars. Easily into the millions of dollars. That is a lot of money. And that's one lawsuit, by the way. That's good. Well, it's going to be several lawsuits. It's going to be one person filing multiple actions. Millions of dollars. This is the same thing. This is going to be the third legal action he's going to have to defend himself against. He is probably well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars in defense fees. Although they have recovered some of those defense fees based on some of the things that have been done in courts. So that being said, boom. Jack Phillips, basically this disgusting waste of space, who, by the way, needs to be disbarred. I do believe that wholeheartedly. This is an ethics breach. I do believe that. I think that they are intentionally filing frivolous lawsuits, knowing they're frivolous lawsuits because of their position as an attorney, with the intent of causing causing interference with a business operation, tortious interference with a business operation and contracts that could take place for future business operations. Because whenever he takes on a job like a wedding cake or anything else, he signs paperwork with them to agree to it. And he does a lot of work that's required in that. And even if it's not written, it is an implied contract, which I'm not going to get into, but it's implied, explicit, and all that fun stuff. You guys can probably figure it out for yourselves if you're smart enough. Anyways, they're interfering with his ability to do business. So what really needs to happen here? First off, I don't think this case makes it beyond the initial stages. I think the judge is going to be pretty bright here. I think the judge is going to see this is the third attempt. The second, at least the second, by this piece of trash. She couldn't get it done through the state of Colorado because they just hate Christianity, apparently, and Christians and people who stand by the principles. So she couldn't get it that way. So she's trying to file it through the lawsuit system, through the legal system. And I think the judge is just going to see it. And I think she's going to, whoever the judge is, and they have a half a brain, is going to dismiss this with prejudice as a frivolous lawsuit and a harassment lawsuit. I'm going to argue that if Colorado has one, and I'd have to check, they probably do. I haven't had time to really look that deep into it. They probably can file a slap motion against this and probably win. This is very clearly a slap issue. This is very clearly a participation issue. This is trying to squelch Jack Phillips' First Amendment rights to both free speech and freedom of religion, which is a slap issue. So, and that's if he has to do that. Some judge may get this complaint and be like, what the hell are these people even talking about? This is clearly harassment. I'm not even going to entreat with it. They do not have to allow a case to go forward if it's clearly frivolous. There's nothing in the law that says that. I don't know what people will try to tell you that's the case. That is not the case. A judge can summarily judge and rule that this is a nuisance lawsuit and dismiss it on the grounds of being nothing more than nuisance, without any motions or anything being filed in those veins. Generally, that doesn't happen. That's like a unicorn thing. I don't think you see it. It's plausible because they do have the power to do it. Normally, you have to file motions to get them to look at it that way. So, in the end run, though, I think this case gets dismissed. This is what I want to get to, guys. I think Jack Phillips and ADF and his attorneys, I think at this point, it's time for him to file a countersuit against the state of Colorado as a defendant, with one of the claims against them that their anti-discrimination law is, 1, too broad, 2, has no protection for religious exemption, and 3, is not facially neutral and creates a special class that receives additional protections that are not guaranteed to everyone under the 14th Amendment. I think that is the best line of attack for laws were never intended or even originally written to be used the way that this law in Colorado is being used, or the law in Sweet Cakes was being used, or the law in Arlene's Flowers is being used, which, by the way, that case is going to wind up back at the Supreme Court, which this time they're not going to be able to skirt around it. They're going to probably have to take it on cert. And they're very likely going to have to deal with it. Just so you guys know, I'm going to put a pause button here. Just so you guys know, I am not a licensed attorney. I do have legal training, but I am not a licensed attorney. Anything I say in this video is opinion. So keep that in mind. I'm not guaranteeing any of this. This is the way that I've interpreted several of the civil rights laws and things that I've read. I've long since said I've said for years I think anti-discrimination laws are unconstitutional for various reasons. I'm going to get into a lot of them here in a second. The biggest thing is they're not facially neutral. So one of the big things when it comes to discrimination laws, things like Colorado's laws carve out special protections for special groups, predominantly LGBT people. There's already a question, first off, whether or not LGBT is a genetic or a neurotic thing, something that's caused naturally, or if it's something that you choose. There's no hard science to prove either way. I do think that I've had this conversation with different doctors and different people before. I think it's kind of a mix. I think there is a genetic aspect to being homosexual or being transgender, for sure. But I do think there is some environmental impact as well. So personally, I think it's a mix, but it still doesn't matter because you can't just say, well, LGBT people deserve more protections. If you go back and look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964, while it impacted predominantly Black people, the law itself is written as a facially neutral application. So, for example, under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, I could not deny access to a hotel, for example, to a Black person. But on the same token, if I was a Black man in the South and I was angry at all the racism, I could not offer discounts only to Black people. I could not deny rooms to white people. I could not deny rooms to Native Americans because it basically, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 simply states you cannot deny equal access to public accommodations on the basis of a race. Something that's very clear, by the way. That's a huge issue with public accommodations laws today. I walk into your store tomorrow and I want to order a cake for my wedding. I don't tell you who I'm marrying. Can you know if I'm marrying a guy or girl? Do you know if I'm gay or not? No, you have no damn clue. And that's the problem. These laws are not facially neutral because they're asking you to make judgment calls with things that people are demanding that you accept. Being Black is not a choice. There's no question about that. Being a white person is not a choice. Being a man is not a choice. Being a woman is not a choice. And this is controversial, I know, and I don't give a shit if YouTube wants to try to strip this video or not. I don't care. YouTube can kiss my ass. Being a man and a woman is not a choice. You are born one or the other. Now, whether you suffer from gender dysphoria, which is bullshit, by the way, it's gender identity disorder. They softened it to make it more acceptable. It's bullshit. It's gender identity disorder. It's a fucking mental health condition. Anyone who believes somehow or another that they're in the wrong body is severely mentally ill. You wouldn't give the benefit of the doubt to somebody who thinks they need to cut their arm off. And yes, those people exist. So don't feed yourself a line about, well, they're not really mentally ill. Yes, they are. Gay people may not be. I disagree with the idea of homosexuality being a mental disorder. A whole host of issues with homosexual lifestyle. And I do mean the way that they live, not that it mean gay. I'm talking about the way they live. A lot of them are very promiscuous, move from partner to partner, a lot of disease, drug use, alcohol abuse, physical abuse in those communities. But those are foibles that I can't do a lot about because they're going to have to be dealt with internally. I don't think those are going to be fixed from the outside in. I think those have to be dealt with by gay people to gay people. And not just gay men, but gay women as well, bisexual people, all of them. They're the only people that are going to be able to deal with this. Anyways, long story short. So these laws, that as they are applied, are not facially neutral. They target specific groups of people for special protection. no application of these laws yet where a straight person would be turned away. And even in Colorado, there is a history of people trying to use these laws to advocate heterosexual marriage, heterosexual relationships, and the state refusing to enforce the law against the bakeries and stuff that refuse those services. So there is a history of them actually being used in the reverse discrimination process and the reverse discriminatory process where a gay person goes, well, I want a wedding cake and I'm not getting my way, so I should be able to sue the person out of business. Meanwhile, a Christian can go into a bakery and say, I want a cake that says God despises sin, Leviticus 18:33, and you can deny me and I can't do a damn thing about it. Which is a double entendre because it's a discriminatory against religion and discriminatory against being heterosexual and believing heterosexuality is the only way to live. So it's double discriminatory. There is a reason LGBT rights have never been enshrined in federal civil rights law. Very much so. And I don't think they ever will be. I honestly don't. I don't think you can get them. I think you can get them in federal civil rights law because I don't think that federal judges will accept it. Because sexual orientation is, regardless of whether you think it's natural or unnatural or how you view it, whether you think it's sinful, whatever, sexuality is something you still choose to engage in. There are plenty of people who consider themselves gay who are celibate. There are people who are gay who seek out treatment, willingly seek out treatment to fight the urges. I'm not going to speak to the psychology of whether or not it's good or bad. I'm not in that person's shoes. I'm not the one treating them. I don't know how they're treating them. So I don't know. I don't speak to that. That's not my fucking business. Not to mention, if you're an adult male, adult female, you walk into a doctor's office and say, man, I feel like I'm attracted to another man. Doc, what can you do to help me with that? Whatever you decide to do with that doctor is your damn business, not the state's. But it's certainly not mine. But the idea that sexuality somehow or another is forced upon you and you have to be gay, no, you don't. You don't have to act on the impulses of homosexuality, just like you don't have to act on the impulses of being heterosexual or asexual even. You can be celibate. People do it all the time. Whether we like it or not, people are celibate. We have a culture, though, that has taught that we can force people to accept a worldview they don't actually believe in. And that's where these laws are coming from. This lawsuit has shown purely the abusive nature of these laws. And notice the people involved. You have an LGBT member. You have Jack Phillips. That's it. I mean, you have two people right there. Boom. You have a transgender person, and you have a committed person who believes in Christian faith and Christian doctrine, trying to practice that faith. Now, could you imagine the shitstorm it would start if you reverse that and Jack Phillips was suing this fucking piece of shit attorney every chance he got for discrimination? Think about it. You think Colorado would let him do it? You bet your bottom dollar they wouldn't. They'd find a way to get rid of his lawsuit. They'd find a way to fine him out of existence. So the idea that these laws are facially neutral is terrible. And I think this case could provide a catalyst for finally somebody challenging them in federal courts as unconstitutional. I think that needs to be the fruitful line of attack. I think people need to stop challenging these kind of laws on the idea that we'll have a conscience right. No, you don't need a conscience right. Because with something like LGBT, hell, I'm going to be honest with you. Justin Amash has said it. I'm not a big fan of Justin Amash right now, but so has Ben Sass and Ted Cruz and a couple other people said it. It may even be time to put to pasture the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Because the truth is, most people are not racist. Most people are not turning people away because of the color of their skin or who they sleep with or anything else. And under constitutional understanding, there's no constitutional basis for upholding accommodations laws at all. The truth of the matter is, if I don't want to serve black people as a business owner, I should have every right to do so. And you know what that means for the market? They have every right to go next door to my competitor, buy everything from them, and put me out of business. And by the way, bigots tend not to stay in business. Not very long. If you think for a split second, the city the size of Colorado Springs, that what's her name? Oh shit, I lost the name. People that sued him originally could not find another bakery to make a cake that they wanted. And by the way, little piece of legal knowledge that gets left out of all the conversation about this poor guy. He told them he'd help them find a baker that would do what they wanted. That he didn't feel comfortable doing it, but he was happy to recommend several people he was friends with, by the way, that would willingly do that work. So the idea that these discrimination laws are so broad that you cannot even say, well, you know what, I don't feel comfortable doing that, but let me get you a number of another baker, which in the city of Colorado Springs, there's probably hundreds, if not thousands of bakeries, especially if you count all the grocery stores, you count everything else. In the general area around Colorado Springs, there's probably hundreds of them. I wouldn't say thousands because Colorado Springs is not huge, but there's probably hundreds of places to buy wedding cakes from. New York City, you can talk thousands, somewhere like New York City, Boston, Miami, but somewhere like Colorado Springs, I'd say hundreds, probably in the couple of hundreds. There's no way in hell that you can convince me that this piece of shit up above me could not find somebody to make them a gender transition cake. They chose Jack Phillips, knowing that the law would protect them when they decided to throw a little hissy fit, and that was the whole fucking point. These laws are not facially neutral. They are not equally applied. They are not equally protective. They fell 14th Amendment. They fell facially neutral standard. They fell strict scrutiny standards. They fell narrow interest standards. The reason that you can't claim these are narrow is because the truth of the matter is that they're so narrowly applied that they can't be considered a narrow compelling interest. They're not narrowly applied for a compelling interest. What interest is there in the government forcing me to make you a wedding cake? If you find one, I'll happily let you know. There is none. There's no facially neutral reason to demand a wedding cake. There's no facially neutral case that LGBT people should have right to demand a wedding cake or a chapel or florist or anything else. Because if, as a straight man, if I walked in and said, I want you to make me a bouquet for my wedding, somebody turned me down, I can guarantee you right the fuck now what the state's going to tell me. Why don't you just go somewhere else? And if you don't buy that, guys, you're not paying attention. Because Kennedy references it several times in the goddamn ruling. Let me bring up the ruling here real quick, guys. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read some of these parts of this ruling to you. I got to pull it up real quick. I misspelled that, but I don't know what I was trying to say. No. Here, go to the Supreme Court Gov. Okay. This is a complicated document. By the way, this is a really complicated fucking document. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to find the actual parts in here. It takes a minute because this is a long ruling, guys. It's like a 50-page ruling. So it takes a minute to get in there where he talks about this. And the name of this couple originally that sued him was Charlie Craig and Dave Mullins. I'd forgotten their names because there's so many of these cases, they get muddled in my brain. So and this is actually something that he gets into just a little bit. And he kind of has, you can tell he has questions about the broadness of this act to the public, but excludes church, synagogue, mosque, or other place that is principally used for religious purposes. Do you realize how broad that is? I mean, that's constitutionally overbroad. It really is. So if I sell pens out of a store, I'm a public accommodation. Wait, what? I sell anything, I'm a public accommodation. Or if I offer any services, I'm a public accommodation. No, I'm not always a public accommodation just because I make sales. I can make limited sales only to businesses, for example. Therefore, I'm not discriminating based on any of the protected characteristics. But you can still sue me under the Accommodations Act because I'm offering services. It's ridiculous. This is where it gets really tricky here. Whatever. Blah, blah, blah. I like how he references Obergefell versus Hodge, which he tortured the fucking Constitution to pass there in the first place. Here it is. I'm trying to find it here. Okay. At the time, this is the actual part he gets into it. At the time, state law also afforded shopkeepers some latitude to decline to create specific messages the storekeeper considered offensive. Indeed, while enforcement proceedings against Phillips were ongoing, the Colorado Civil Rights Division itself endorsed this proposition in cases involving other bakers' creation of cakes, including on at least 3 occasions that a baker acted lawfully in declining to create cakes with the declarations that mean gay persons or gay marriages. It's Jack versus Gateau. Jack versus La Bakery Essential, and Jack versus As a Core Bakery. There was, to be sure, responses to these arguments that the state could make when it contended for a different result in seeking the enforcement of its generally applicable state regulation of businesses that serve the public. Any decision in favor of the baker would have to be sufficiently constrained lest all purveyors of goods and services who object to gay marriage for moral and religious reasons in effect be allowed to put up signs saying no goods or services will be sold they are used for gay marriages, something that would impose a serious stigma on gay persons. But nonetheless, Phillips was entitled to the neutral and respectful consideration of his claims in all circumstances of the case. So, like I said, Colorado has already been caught with its hand in the cookie jar using these laws to bludgeon people they disagree with and protecting people they agree with, therefore creating an orthodoxy, which is unconstitutional under West Virginia v. Barnett. These cases are not hard to understand because they're not just, this is what I'm saying. This is not a free speech issue anymore. This is an issue with people denying the constitutionally protected right to not only speak, but not to speak, because when you're being forced to speak, you're being forced to speak at orthodoxy. If the state can walk into my business tomorrow and say, you have to serve everything you have, including custom-made goods, to person X. What if I think what person X wants is offensive? For example, what if they're a neo-Nazi group and they want I'm a carpenter, they want me to build them a huge cross for the local cross burning. Should I be allowed to deny them? Under the constitutional arguments put forth by Colorado, they should. But those same constitutional arguments they made were, oh, well, he should be allowed to deny a neo-Nazi group a cross if he's a carpenter or somebody else. Well, doesn't apply to Jack Phillips because, well, he discriminated against gays. No, because he also told them very clearly, and you have to listen to the oral arguments to really get this gist, but multiple times he gets into this in the oral arguments, his attorneys do anyways, is he told them multiple times, I'll sell you anything off the shelves. I'll sell you a custom-made birthday cake. Basically, any other type of cake that's not offensive or I don't already make. Basically, like if you want a divorce cake, I'm not going to make that for you because I don't make those for straight people. And the basic gist of his argument was, had a straight person walked into this bakery and said, I want you to make a cake for my friend's homosexual wedding, my response would have now been different. Create a hierarchy of victimhood. Well, you're denying them because they're gay. No, I'm denying that I'm going to do the goddamn damn event. Because I wouldn't care if a one-eyed alien rabbit with a gun on my face came in and said, you have to make a cake for my friend's gay wedding. I wouldn't do it. And that's, I mean, that's hyperbole for what they said, but he had to explain this several times over to Ginsburg and Kagan in the oral arguments. You cannot tell me I have, well, you're denying it to them because no, I'm not, because I wouldn't do the same thing for a straight person. I would do the same thing with the divorce cake, cake for Halloween, a cake for all kinds of different circumstances. They get into a lot of the different circumstances, and they try to trap him in the oral arguments, and he stands by that. And Kagan goes, well, what if they walked in and said, I want that cake off the shelf? I'd sell it to them. Because they're not asking me to be personally involved. And that's what these laws are telling him. If you want to be personally involved in custom creations or custom sales, or custom anything, you have to acquiesce to the gay lobby. Bullshit. At what point do LGBT rights become more important than the rights of a straight Christian business owner? And at what point does it become more important to protect the rights of the majority over the rights of the minority? Whereas I'm normally going to argue that the rights of the minority should be protected because that's how you get the tyranny of the majority. There comes a point where the rights of the minority become so overly protected that you cripple the ability of the majority to function. Whether people like this or not, a lot of people, when this question is asked properly, I'm going to say that right too, because I want people to understand this. If you ask this question to people the right way, do you believe that business owners should be allowed to deny custom services for events they disagree with to gay couples? That's why you ask the question. If you ask that question that way, most Americans agree. They think they should. When you see all these giant polls that talk about, oh, well, I don't think gay people should be turned away from bakers, because they always ask the question, do you think religious bakers should be allowed to deny services to gay people? Well, that's not what they're fucking doing. They're denying a specific event for a specific purpose, and they're refusing to allow the gay lobby to dictate what they're going to do. And these laws, under the guise of non-discrimination, allows it to happen. It takes a bakery that, by the way, he opened in the 1990s. Been open damn near 30 years. Okay, I think he opened in 93 or 94. So it's almost 30 years. Almost 30 years been around. And they are telling me, run a bakery for 30 years. First off, you're bigoted. Second, you're bigoted because you don't want to do specific events. 3, we don't care if you would have served them generic items or whatever off the shelf, or even, give them other items for other events. You don't like them because they're gay. What fucking logic exists? We're going to go outside the world of law. What logic exists to support that? And the next argument that's going to come out of people's mouths at that point is, well, they have dignity. Well, so does Jack Phillips. And his dignity is routinely violated when he's being told that he has to give up his conscience in order to make somebody feel good about themselves. Constitutionally, our constitutional order is designed in a factional way to precisely and directly prevent the exact abuses that these laws ordain. If you were to be able to pull Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Constitution, helped write the Bill of Rights, you were to pull John Adams, you were to pull Ben Franklin, you were to pull those people to today and show them these cases, they would die of shock. It would kill them. Because the idea that the state could step into the private business dealings of another person and say, you have to abide by this orthodoxy or you're a bigot, would blow their minds. I mean, John Stuart Mill, which was beautiful because of the way it protrudes and goes through history. You have a right to do what you want until your fist makes contact with somebody else. And that is exactly what these laws do all the fucking time. $135,000 fine levied against a business in Oregon because God help them, they didn't want to make a gay wedding cake. By the way, Brad Avarkian, the jackass who started that, is on record in a ruling stating that his goal was not to punish Sweet Cakes by Melissa's owners, but to re-educate them and make sure other Christian businesses learned a lesson. Now tell me how, in the logical world of anything, we are anywhere close to what constitutional norms exist for these. We don't exist in the constitutional system. We are being told that you are a bigot if you don't want to serve people. No, you're not necessarily a bigot. Maybe you just don't always, maybe you don't want to deal with the headaches that come with it. I can give you good examples of that. Neo-Nazis are actually great examples of that, as are groups like Antifa. If a bunch of Antifa thugs walked into my store and said, we want to buy a bunch of screen printed t-shirts that say, fuck Trump, I should have every fucking right to say no. And you know what they should have every right to do? Go next door to the guy that hates Trump's guts, and not because I like him, but the guy that hates Trump's guts, order the same goddamn shirts, probably cheaper. Because he's probably going to give him a discount for what they're doing with them. But at what point does his right, does the Antifa group's right, override my right to run my business? They're not good people. They're terrible human beings. So the question with this is going to be, does Jack Phillips have a right to do what's right? Yes. Yes, he does. Does this piece of trash above me have the right to abuse a law that was originally intended to make sure people didn't get discriminated against legitimately? Because there was discrimination against people for a long time. I mean, you got to go no further back than the 1964 Civil Rights Act. You can go back to the Disability Rights Acts in the 60s and 70s. The fixes they had to put up in the 90s. Guys, you could go back to the 80s with discrimination against AIDS sufferers. Discrimination happens. The question for the courts going forward, and this is why I think this is an important death knell type case for them, has to be, can you prove that this is a narrowly tailored governmental interest that's being applied neutrally in all cases and fairly in all cases? And I don't think you're going to find a single state that does so. You won't do it. I think the truth is, I think that the court will have to grant cert on Sweet Cakes. I think they may even wait to grant cert with Arlene's Flowers from Washington. I think those cases could be the final turning point for these matters. I think that even with the pseudo-conservatives like Roberts and Kavanaugh, I think you have a pretty solid 5-vote majority there that's going to see through this bullshit pretty quickly and see what they're doing. I think they punted on Masterpiece originally because it was easier. And it's fine to have punted a little bit because they didn't have to reach the issues. And this is something you learn when you study law cases and stuff. Very rarely, if a court doesn't have to reach an issue, do they try? They could have, but they didn't have to. Why even approach the First Amendment, and 14th Amendment issues and stuff that he raised when we can simply go back to the very, very first Amendment issue that comes up, which is they had impermissible hostility towards his religious views in the first place, and we're trying to tell him what his sincere beliefs were. So, anyways, guys, you can't tell this one makes me hot. I'm really tired of it. I'm tired of this culture of bigotry and hatred being used to assault the civic rights of regular people. I really believe that once this is all said and done, Mr. Phillips, good Christian or not, I think there is a case to be made that Christians should not just take everything laying down. I think that's a misknowingly filing frivolous lawsuits with the intent of harming his business, and that they should know better. I think they need to work on that. And I also, like I said, I think he needs to countersue. I think at this point, I think that's the answer to this problem. I think he needs to attack the CADA, claiming that it's unequally applied and therefore it's invalid, unless they intend to start applying it equally. There needs to be a conscious exemption put into the law, because there are legitimate, as Obergefell said, and he says in Masterpiece, there are legitimate reasons people disagree with gay marriage, both philosophical and religious. And it's not up to us as people or governments to decide whether or not they're sincere in those beliefs. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy these videos. I know these videos are long. I know this channel is kind of long, and I know I'm not growing real hard, and I don't really care. I do these videos because they're cathartic, really. But I do hope people start stumbling across them, because I really do think they're important. I think some of these things are important. I really do want to get to the big situation, but this one hit me between the eyes today, so I decided to tackle it. Like I said, keep in mind, guys, that piece of trash above me, if they lived in your state and you have a anti-discrimination law, that trash bag above me would do the same thing to you. They would have no foibles. They don't care who they destroy. Anyways, guys, take it easy, and hopefully you guys can have some fun exploring politics, and hopefully I can keep giving you guys more political content, more legal content, that kind of stuff. Again, guys, keep in mind, not licensed attorney, so anything I say is just my opinion on how I read and interpret legal things. It's not legal advice, so God knows don't follow it. I'll make that disclaimer once again. Do not follow anything I say as legal advice, because it's not legal advice. I'm not equipped to do it. It's illegal for me to do it. Anyways, guys, have fun. Talk to you guys later.